Cheating is not a modern problem. It is as old as marriage itself. And ancient societies, long before courts, lawyers, or divorce, had their own answers for what happened when a husband or wife was caught in the act. Some of those answers were brutal, some were surprisingly fair, and a few will genuinely shock you. This is what really happened when someone got caught cheating in the ancient world. Let us start in ancient Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, around 4,000 years ago. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the oldest legal documents ever found, had very specific rules about adultery. If a wife was caught with another man, both of them were to be tied together and thrown into the river. The husband could choose to save his wife. The king could choose to spare the man. But if no one intervened, the river decided. What is striking is that the law applied to both parties equally. The man she was with was just as guilty as she was. That sense of shared blame was more progressive than many laws that came much later in history. But here is where it gets uneven. The same law had almost nothing to say about a husband who cheated. Men could take concubines openly. Fidelity in ancient Mesopotamia was largely a one-way street. Ancient Egypt was a different story entirely. Egyptian women had remarkable legal rights compared to women almost anywhere else in the ancient world. They could own property, file for divorce, and take their husband to court. And they did. Marriage contracts in ancient Egypt were legally binding documents. If a husband was caught cheating, his wife could divorce him and walk away with a significant portion of the marital property. She did not need his permission. She did not need a male relative to speak for her. She simply invoked the contract.
That said, Egyptian law was still harsher on wives who cheated. A wife caught in adultery could face public humiliation, flogging, having her nose cut off, or in extreme cases, execution. The double standard was alive and well, even in one of the more enlightened ancient societies. Ancient Rome turned adultery into law in a way that no civilization had before. In 18 BCE, Emperor Augustus passed the Lex Julia de Adulterius, the first formal written law specifically criminalizing adultery. Under this law, a husband who discovered his wife cheating was legally required to divorce her within 60 days. If he did not, he could himself be prosecuted for lenosinium, essentially profiting from his wife's infidelity. A guilty wife lost half her dowry and was exiled to an island. Her lover lost half his property. But the law had a sharp double standard. It applied almost exclusively to married women. A Roman husband could sleep with slaves, prostitutes, and unmarried women without any legal consequence whatsoever. Roman adultery law was not about fidelity, it was about property and bloodline. Ancient Greece gave a husband perhaps the most extreme legal right of all. Under Athenian law, if a husband caught another man in bed with his wife, he was legally permitted to kill the man on the spot. This was not murder. It was considered justifiable homicide, a legally recognized act of honor defense. The wife herself was not killed. Instead, she was immediately divorced and permanently banned from participating in public religious ceremonies, one of the most socially devastating punishments in Greek culture, where religious life was central to identity and community. Greek men, meanwhile, faced no such consequences for their own infidelity. The Athenian double standard was so complete that it was essentially invisible to the men who enforced it. They genuinely did not see the contradiction. Across every ancient civilization, a pattern emerges that is almost impossible to ignore. Ancient adultery law was almost never about love, loyalty, or emotional betrayal. It was about property, bloodline, and power. A wife's fidelity guaranteed that a man's children were actually his, and therefore that his property, his name, and his legacy would pass to the right heirs. Cheating was not primarily a moral failure, it was a threat to inheritance. This is why the punishments fell so heavily on women, and this is why cheating husbands were largely ignored by the same laws. A husband sleeping with another woman did not threaten the bloodline. A wife doing the same did. Ancient justice for infidelity was not about fairness, it was about control. The emotion behind the punishment was real, but the law underneath it was always about something colder. And here is the thing that stays with you after all of this. The pain of betrayal, the rage, the humiliation, the sense of violation. That part has not changed at all in 4,000 years. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets record the grief of betrayed spouses in language that sounds completely modern. Egyptian divorce documents carry the same wounded dignity you would find in any courthouse today. What changed across history was not the emotion. What changed was who had the power to punish it and who had to simply survive it. The story of ancient cheating is ultimately the story of who got to write the rules. And for most of human history, that answer was never the person most likely to get hurt.